Welcome to Exposing the Hidden Reality. I'm Annette, career reinvention coach and caffeine-powered human.
And I'm Sandra, women's life and leadership coach. I bring the woo to our conversations.
And this is the podcast where we call out all the unspoken stuff, biases, outdated expectations, and all the things women navigate in work and in life.
Yes. We bring to light what we see happening. Smart, capable women stuck in the same patterns because no one really talks about what's going on.
We'll bring some difficult truths.
Welcome, insightful experts.
And sprinkle in a little chaos and fun.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't, right?
True.
So whether you're walking the dog or tuning in during your commute, we're glad you're here. Let's do this.
Let's do this. You want to do the let's do this together? Like 3, 2, 1, let's do this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. Welcome, everybody. We are joined today by Tina Wright, and I love the little intro that she put on the bottom of her screen, which is "Your shoes should love you back." And I don't know that many people have too many thoughts about their shoes, Tina. So I'm hoping that you will go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about you and how Shoes Loving You Back came to be your work.
Sure. As you said, I'm Tina Wright. And I worked as a professional for many, many years prior to getting married and prior to having my daughter. And what I realized, well, actually, I realized it after having my daughter, is that we all compromise in fashion, or for the sake of fashion, the comfort of our shoes. And, I had taken it for granted for many, many years that this is just how shoes fit. They just don't fit right. And you just, accept that. And it wasn't until I had my daughter and she had problems wearing her shoes that I realized that, this is not just a Tina issue. This is a real footwear issue. And so for me, I could wear shoes and deal with the issues. But as we all know, as moms and as parents, you have to make things right for your kids. So I found a solution for heel slippage and shoe discomfort. And that's what we're here to talk about today, how we came to that journey and how we arrived at where we are.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love it. I love that you saw
Heel
a problem.
slippage. I love this. Heel slippage.
Heel slippage.
And I can say that as a mom, right? In particular, your kids' feet grow so much that sometimes you buy a shoe and 2 weeks later it's not working for them anymore. So it's not just that they are uncomfortable to wear, it's that it's a real challenge to figure out what size to get, right? Because if I get it too big, they won't wear it. And if I get it, just right, 2 weeks from now, they won't fit in it.
Not wearing it. And not only is that the case for children, but also for us as adults. Because think about it. You go shoe shopping in the morning, and by afternoon, your foot is a different size because you've been out and on your feet all day. And so those favorite shoes that you purchased, at the store, all of a sudden get hidden in the back of the closet because they're just not quite as comfortable as we thought that they were.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And forget if they're like pointy toed, right? Or if the heel is bigger than like an inch, right? For me anyway. And I'm short to begin with, right? And I loved when thick heels came back in fashion, right? Because those tall, skinny heels, I was a disaster walking in those. Disaster.
Anyone who's not 16 years old pretty much is. And what I found amazing is that most shoe designers today are still men. They are designing these beautiful shoes, but they don't know what it's like to walk in them. They really don't understand. And to be quite honest, as some of the big names have said, they're not really concerned about comfort. They're concerned about fashion and design.
Yeah. And we are not going to wear them for too long if they're not comfortable. Although I do have some shoes that I've dubbed my sitting down shoes. So when I'm going somewhere where I'm going to be sitting the whole night, like no dancing, no walking, I might consider pulling them out of my closet. If not, they just look really, really, really good in my closet.
And we all have those, don't we? We all have those beautiful shoes that we've spent so much money on, and yet we can't get our money's worth out of them. And it's not necessarily, our issue. It's not our issue. It's just the way that shoes are built. They are built for a quote average foot. But what is that? Some people have narrower heels and Achilles, like I do. Some people have a wider, foot base than the back of the shoe. And so unless you get a custom shoe, you're really not going to find one that's made for your foot. Therein lies the heel sling. We customize every shoe so that it conforms to your unique foot. It essentially cradles you like a baby inside of your shoe.
So tell me how
I
that
love
works.
this. So you had this problem for a long time. And then
Yeah.
it sounds like your daughter had similar feet. She inherited your characteristics. So what made you decide that you were going to I'm going to fix this now?
I think that we all have tried the inserts that are available on the market, the heel grips, the silicone pads, the moleskin, all of that. And what I discovered is that I was spending a lot of money on products that just weren't working. I mean, for me, they rolled, or either they eventually come off, or they just plainly don't solve the problem. And so it wasn't until my daughter she has small feet. So she wore the Mary Janes a lot longer than, many of the other kids. And so by the time she got to the ballet flat, she was ready to be a big girl because all of her friends were wearing the ballet flats. But unfortunately, she would run, she would trip in her shoes, she would fall, she would have to stop and put them on again. And when you see your child going through that kind of struggle, you say there's something that has to be done. So to be quite honest, she was my guinea pig initially. I came up with a very homemade remedy for her shoes, not really expecting to market it on the market. But after a while, I realized that it was functioning. These homemade prototypes were functioning in her shoes. And so I started testing in my shoes as well, and they were working. And, one of my friends said, Tina, I think you're onto something. So that's where the concept began.
So how does the heel sling work?
Sure. It is, first of all, we've got two colors. We've got nude and black.
Okay.
And then we have an adult and a child version in both nude and black. And essentially, if you think about the shoes that usually fit you the best, they would be a sandal because it's got a strap that can adjust, right? So it's essentially a sandal strap inside of your shoe. So here we've got Cinderella's shoe, and we've got the heel sling inserted inside. Here we've got the black version. And so there's a leather pad on the back, there's strapping on the sides, and your feet go inside of the strapping. So it eliminates any of the gapping that might exist in the shoe. And then there's a pad that holds it in place. We also have an adjustable strap on the side so that you can make it tighter or looser. And this way your foot and your shoe move in tandem with each other.
I love this.
It's very interesting. I think it's cool.
And everyone says, what a simple, simple idea. And usually that's all that it takes. You identify a problem, and it's a simple fix. No one's ever thought of it before.
So how did you take that outside of your home? Because you said it was a homegrown solution. How did you take that idea and make it bigger, take it outside of you and your daughter?
That's very funny because I had nothing but a prototype. I've had nothing but a prototype until about 2.5 years ago. And I contacted a marketing organization, and there was a male who who took my call and who agreed to meet with me. So I go in with my daughter, and I think she was about sixth grade at the time. I go in with her, and we talk to him about this concept of heel slippage. Your foot slipping out of the back of your shoe. And I tell him that most people have one foot that's slightly larger than the other. So you end up buying the larger shoe and you ride and you slip out of the other foot. And he said what we would expect most men to say. Yeah, I could see that as a problem, but that's a very niche market. He says, but let me have my partner come in and take a look at this. So he calls his partner in, and it's a female. And we go through the spiel again, and we describe everything that's happening. And she says, I don't wear heels for that same reason. I wear an open back shoe, a clog or a sandal, because I can't keep my foot in. She says, what size is that shoe? And at that time, my daughter was wearing about a 5.5 or a 6. And I think I got a 6.5 just to show that the product worked a full size up. And she tried it on and she says, I love it. Well, come to find out, she's the owner of the company. So, that just goes to show the bias that still exists. We need a female perspective on a lot of products and issues that females are facing.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
with that encouragement that I contacted a patent attorney. And I went in to meet with him, and I was going to describe to him this concept of heel slippage. And he stopped me and he said, Tina, just stop. He says, I deal with it too. And it was like, ta-da! It's more than just a child and a female issue. It's a shoe issue. And so, he was able to understand a lot better than maybe that other gentleman why there was a need for the product and how the mechanics would work in order to adjust the fit of a shoe.
So I'm intrigued. I want to go back to what you said. There's such a simple solution, but we don't do anything, because I think that before you showed us, I would never have thought to address the problem in the way that you described it.
Yeah.
So is your background in fashion design, sewing? Like, what is your background that kind of you pulled on to solve this issue?
It's very interesting because I had no background in any of that. I worked in finance on Wall Street as a young professional. And then when I married in my mid-30s, I became a stay-at-home mom. Okay. And it's funny that you ask about my hobbies, because I've been busy and had full days all of my life. And all of a sudden, I've got this little one and all of this time. So I did take up sewing. Sewing became my new interest, because why not? And so I think that helped me, because I understood materials, and I understood that certain materials were used for certain functions. But no, my background was not in engineering, was not in design. So I actually had to rely on some engineering and architects and their drawings and renderings in order to get the final product that was functioning. And we tested a host of materials. We tested a host of materials and designs in conjunction with each other until we found some that worked. Because one of the important features is that the product doesn't break. If the product breaks, then you're back to square one, which is having a shoe that doesn't function. And so we were able to locate a material that is stretchable but unbreakable. But no, I've had to rely on others for various aspects of the development and the creation of the product. And of course, for the manufacturing, we had to identify, first of all, a manufacturer who could create or who could produce this product and who understood the concept. Because if you don't understand the concept, then you can't produce the product. And I can tell you many stories, many iterations of the product, where in one case, I asked the manufacturer, who was abroad, to adjust the adhesive. And rather than to adjust the adhesive on the bottom of the pad, they put the adhesive on the top of the pad. So just little things like that. Just little things like that. I don't know if they thought that it was going to attach to the top of the shoe and you put your foot underneath it. I don't know. But yeah.
Boy, that would feel uncomfortable.
That would be very uncomfortable.
Well, and I'm sitting here thinking, but my sock would stay attached to the shoe. Like my, okay.
I guess they said they're producing it, they're not wearing it. So. Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed. So how long did it take from that meeting with the partner that introduced you to the owner of the company to meeting with a patent attorney for it to come to life and you have an actual end product that you were ready to market and sell?
That's a great question, Annette. And I think that my story is probably similar to many other idea creators. And that is that it really is a process. You know, it's not your primary focus because, again, my primary focus was my family and my daughter. And so that took a little longer than I expected. From the time that I started working with a patent attorney until the time that I was able to market the product was probably about 6 years.
Wow.
Some of it was just, you know, being unfamiliar with the design and the engineering facet. But another piece was a family emergency that arose. And my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And so once again, I had to stop the process and focus on his health. So along with the fact that you go through the trademark and the patent process and the iterations with, you know, the trademark office, I then had to stop again and focus on my husband's health. So it took me about 6 years until I was able to actually come up with a final product packaged and ready to market.
And the whole time you're self-funding this?
Definitely self-funding. Bootstrapping every stage of the way, you know, credit cards and savings and borrowing from family and friends, you know, anyone who believed in me and believed in the concept. So, yes.
Yeah.
So, what experiences did you have when you approached people beyond that first experience of the marketing company as you began to source support and funds to keep this project moving forward? What did you experience? Like, were people rolling over and saying, yes, I want this, this is great? Or were you experiencing that same pushback that you talked about?
I think that any new product that comes into an existing space is gonna experience pushback, and it's because the incumbents don't want a new arrival in the market. We have had many meetings with some of the larger existing players in the market, and they are excited about the concept, but they are not excited about cannibalizing their existing line of product. So while we've gotten beyond the first meetings and the second meetings, when it comes to the existing players in the market, they would rather just hold off, and they're hoping that this product shelves and kind of expires. Now, retailers, on the other hand, have taken a more deliberate approach. They are interested in the product. We've got several of the major luxury retailers who are looking at the product, but they want to see demonstrated sales. They want me to do all of the work to prove that the concept is viable. And so they have been monitoring our sales online as well as our sales on Amazon, as well as the engagement that we get on social media. We are expecting to go fourth quarter of this year into some of the major retailers, but it hasn't been an easy road. Again, when you're a new company and you don't have a broad breadth of products, you're introducing one or two products, they're more tentative in terms of working with you because they don't understand your capabilities, your ability to deliver, your ability to receive returns and, address those returns, as well as just having a product that's brand new. Where will they find shelf space, and will they have to replace existing product, in that shelf space?
Yeah, so many things that, not being a product maker or a product developer myself, I hadn't even considered. So
Yeah.
how did you build from coming up with the idea yourself, getting it prototyped, getting it trademarked, then how did you develop it? How does each iteration go? Like, tell us a little bit more about that process and maybe where you encountered some things you never even thought of along the way.
Well, I'd say that the biggest problem, the biggest obstacle is, first of all, getting into the doors, right? Getting into the retailers' doors. And I realized that the distribution model is very different from how it used to be. It used to be that you met with a buyer, they viewed your product, there was a particular, product review process, and then either it was a yay or a nay. Right now, that process is a lot longer than it used to be because they will look at your product, they will analyze, social aspects of the product, meaning the engagement, the how many people are talking about your product outside of your existing platforms. And then they will come back and talk with you further about what's going on. So what I've done, I've had to work with some smaller boutiques as well as one-off with various people. I work with a lot of pageants. And so, of course, pageant queens and pageant contestants are not looking to fight with their shoe on, no, really, to fight with their shoe on stage. Right. I mean, if anything, they need to walk gracefully on stage. So they love the product. I was able to get an endorsement by Dr. Chris Coetzee. He's the orthopedic surgeon for the Minnesota Vikings, and he works on a lot of athletes as well as a lot of ballerinas. And of course, the ballerinas have a lot of issues with their feet. And he understands how this insert or the sling would stabilize the foot so that you don't have as much injury. So just having his endorsement was a big lender of credentials to me. I've also worked with sporting organizations. One of my first prototypes was with two groups that we tested. One, my daughter played lacrosse. So one was with a New York lacrosse club organization, and one was with a Dallas. One was female and one was male. And they tested the product and they realized that, yes, this stabilized their foot. So then I contacted a running club, and that was really fascinating because what the runner said is that they know that they're competing against the person running beside them.
Sure.
But the other factor that they're competing against, especially in a muddy environment, is the mud. And so you're pulling your shoe and trying to keep it on and moving forward in this muddy environment because, the track meet goes on whether it's sunny or whether it's rainy. And so that was a big aha that, yes, it can be used in sporting environments. So we've had that. We also have Tiffany Moon, who is one of the Real Housewives of Dallas. And she has, I met her at a conference, and she absolutely loves the product and endorses the product. So it's just having those sort of, credentials behind you that has lent some credibility to the product and enabled us to really do well on Amazon as well as our website.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about when my children were younger, and they were in dance, and they did jazz, and they did stage productions. They were in theater, musical theater, And we always had a shoe swap somewhere in that time frame, right? Because your kids, these are expensive shoes, right?
Very expensive.
Yeah. And your kid's foot no longer fits in them, right? And it's so frustrating. I just bought those jazz shoes. What are you talking about? They don't fit you anymore, right? And in particular with the jazz shoe, because it is a split heel, because it needs to bend. So they need a heel at the back, but they need like a ballet type slipper at the front. And so the slipping is a real problem. They need to be snug. And now I'm sitting here thinking, man, I wish I'd had your product when they were that age.
That's a great, great market to explore. So thank you for that.
Yes, yes. And ballet, don't even get me started with ballet. Oh my gosh. You have the only pair of ballet slippers I kept were my daughter's very first ones. They're about this big. Oh yeah. But other than that, I've tossed them all.
They're beat as well as the toes, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and you know, it's amazing what we allow to happen to our feet by the time we get to be my age, you know, almost 60 years. But our feet have gone through quite a bit of damage, and a lot of that can be prevented, especially with the right inserts. Like the heel sling will stabilize the foot. And so one of the things that I used to experience were corns on the foot because I would grip my shoes, you know, with my toes. And so the shoe, my toes are rubbing against the top of my shoe. A lot of people experience bunions, or either because they're wearing shoes that are too tight, or hammer toes because of the same issue. You know, if we have shoes that are fitting properly, then we can eliminate these problems in the future.
Yes. And I'm thinking that the bigger it's not just about it's not just about stabilizing the foot. It's that when you are unstable in your shoe, it impacts everything. It impacts your back, it impacts your hips, your shins, your legs, right? The way the muscles in your legs work, and just your gait in general. And guess what? When you get older, those 10 years between 50 and 60 are not the same 10 years as between 20 and 30. Let me tell you. And I am not looking forward to the next 10 years between 60 and 70. So yeah, we make all of these decisions when we're younger, and we make them for fashion reasons.
Right.
And then as we get older, we realize, oh, that's why my hip hurts the way it does.
Right, right. Quite often I say that fashion and comfort aren't at the same meeting. You know, they're not at the same table.
I don't think they even invite each other, Tina. No.
So Tina, I'm going to give you a new project. Can
Okay.
you work on bras next? We can call it the boob sling or something, you know?
Hey, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, that is a market begging for a woman.
That really is. That really is.
Yes. Well, I love that you, I don't want to say, you haven't even said these words at all. I'm going to put them in your mouth and you can take them back out, but you didn't let no stop you, right? So you were pursuing, you're like, okay, this person doesn't like it. I'm going to go talk to this person. I'm going to talk to a doctor. I'm going to talk to a pageant specialist. I'm going to talk to sports teams. I love that you just keep finding new and different people that are willing to work with you, and that you're not disappointed or stopped by the no or the challenges that are put in front of you. Where do you think you pull that resilience from?
Well, the product was born out of necessity, and it was created through persistence, right? Because I don't know, I had no idea what I was doing. And so I realized, you know, after the first one or two or three or four or 10 no's, that not everyone can see the same vision that I have. And so I started using those no's as a motivator to get a yes. And even if that yes was a small yes and a small win, like Do you ever slip out of your shoes? Well, sometimes. Do you have one foot that's slightly larger than the other? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. Getting those small wins to help people understand that there is an issue, because even I didn't realize that there was an issue. Um, and I think just recognizing that there are different ways to approach the problem. The problem is either heel slippage, or the problem is someone doesn't understand heel slippage. But there are different ways to get different people to understand how this could function in their market or in their industry. And to be quite honest, I realized I had to talk to whoever was available. If a doctor was willing to talk to me, then I was willing to talk to them. If a retailer was willing to talk to me, likewise. If a distributor was willing to talk to me. And a critical part that I realized along the process is that not everybody listens. And so it was important that I listen to them and find out what their pain points are, and address that. For example, with many retailers, and it's something that you'll say, aha, I get it now. But with many of the retailers at the end of the year, they end up with mismatched inventory. They'll end up with a size 8.5 in one box and a size 8 in the same box. And it's because people realize that they have the problem. And if the market's not going to fix it, they're going to fix it. And so one of the ways that we've addressed that with our retailers is that you can eliminate a lot of that shrinkage by offering this product along. And, it's just by understanding what the person that you're talking with, what their pain points are, and make them realize, this does indeed fill that void. So that's one of the ways that I've kept going, Annette. I've just I can't take no for an answer, because I know that there's a need out there, and I know that this is a fix. This fixes a gap that exists in the market, and it's my gift to the world.
I love that. And I'm curious how your daughter has viewed this journey as you modeled for her, not just commitment in your idea, but leadership.
Yeah, she is actually a natural born leader. And I can honestly say I've probably learned a lot from her too, that, you don't give up, but that you look for a different angle, because leadership takes giving and taking. It takes understanding that we're all working towards a common goal, right? And how can we work together on this goal? I think one of the ways that I've developed my leadership is just by recognizing that there's an issue and being persistent in presenting that to other people, helping them and leading them, not necessarily to the water, but leading them to the water, helping them understand that this really is a problem. This is an issue. This is an issue that not just I have or my daughter has, but that most people actually have, and that we're willing to live with. I mean, think about all of the other things in life that are so much more convenient now. I was one of the last ones to accept a cellular phone. I would sit in carpool waiting for my daughter, and then when I got home, I would check my email. And it wasn't until someone said, I get a lot done while sitting in carpool. I can check all of my emails, and then whenever I get home, I'm ready to take the kids to their activities or start preparing dinner. And someone had to make me realize that this is a lot of wasted time, and that this tool is filling a gap within that wasted time. So just recognizing that people don't necessarily understand some of the obvious issues around them, and leading them to that realization is a big part of where I consider leadership.
Yeah, it sounds like you showed leadership in a lot of different ways. I'm really impressed with your story of you being willing to live with the problem as you saw it for yourself. But then when you saw your family struggling with it, you said, okay, now I'm compelled to do something about it. And then I love your perseverance, finding new directions, finding different people to speak with, and then not only using relationships and networking as an opportunity to advance your idea, your product, but to learn what are some other problems that people experience in this industry. And maybe my product is a solution. So I feel like you did not only product testing, but you did market research during those very same meetings. And then it helped you further your product, your business. So kudos to you for finding a path forward that hadn't been, blazed before. Nobody had been on that path. It's just you on there figuring it out.
What I say is that I'm a one-arm paper hanger. I'm trying to do it all. I've got one arm behind my back, but I'm wearing all of the hats.
I love it.
Yes, it's amazing. Well, how can people find you, Tina, connect with you, and find the Heel Sling as well?
Oh, sure. We have a website, which is www.theheelsling.com. That's HEEL, sling.com. We sell our product there as well as on Amazon and in select Good Feet stores. And also, I'm active on Instagram and Facebook, and to a small extent on TikTok. And you can find me at theheelsling.com or at the Heel Sling on any of the social media networks.
That's amazing. Okay, great. I will definitely be checking out the Heel Sling more. I love being able to see it today. That was such a good visual.
Also, for any of your subscribers who are listening right now, we'd be happy to offer 20% off by using the discount code Nashville, all caps, NASHVILLE, and we're also offering free shipping.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's so generous. Great. Well, Tina, we are so excited to have had you join us today. And please, everybody, go check out the Heel Sling and definitely get in contact with Tina, because she seems like somebody that can get through any barrier and keep pushing.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you. That's a wrap on this episode of Exposing the Hidden Reality. If something hit home or made you snort laugh, tell us.
Seriously, we love hearing from you. Message us, tag us, or send us coffee. We love coffee.
And hey, leave a review. It helps more women find us and boosts our egos.
Which are fragile, suspiciously fragile.
True. All right, until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and if all else fails,
blame the dog.
See you
next time.
Wait, did we stop recording?
No, we're still here. You have to push the red button.
Red button. Cool. Just eternal podcast.
Bye.
Bye.